conversation, so back to the fall of 2015 with our presidents and chancellors, I probably didn't recognize that there are 5 fields of play the way I do now. And this is the illustration, Ralph, that I don't think we can do this alone. The 5 fields of play are the courts. We have to be there because of litigation. The second is Congress. We're active in that conversation because you talk about national standards. The third is at the state level. So even in our footprint, could you normalize or standardize state legislation or among our 12 states now to support that equitable competition our student athletes are asking to be a part of? The fourth is at the conference and campus level. How do we make decisions? And then the fifth is the NCAA. Now, if you could create the right kind of linkages between all 5, there's a perfect outcome. I can't ignore any of those 5. I can't work on 4. That doesn't mean all 5 have to work together to provide a path forward. We may have to do elements of that at conference levels, given the scrutiny we're under. But it would certainly be a much more healthy conversation if that could happen consistently at a national level. I hope that's responsive and illustrates both the why did it take so long. That's a little bit of our history in higher education. It was perceived as working well, plenty of criticism that it didn't. We've clearly adapted. You just think about the changes in the last 10 years for getting the outcome of the current settlement. There's a lot of things different around college sports. And that informs why I take the position there's no better time, yet we still have work to do. Thank you again for being here. Look forward, I think, to most of our conversations through the rest of the week. If our staff can be of help, or if I can be of help to the extent my time permits, I look forward to engaging in conversation. I'll be back shortly to introduce our first head football coach of the day.
Again, a reminder, we'll get started here in a few moments. Please turn off your cell phones. If you're looking for information on media days, schedules, quotes,
Jaden Daniels. Brian has his 3 children in Baton Rouge. His youngest son just graduated from Grand Valley State and is transferring to LSU for his final season of football. His other son, Patrick, is in the recruiting and operations analyst role at LSU, and his daughter, Grace, just attained a graduate degree from LSU this past May. Welcome to the podium, LSU head football coach Brian Kelly.
Good morning, everyone. 6 weeks will begin the 2024 football season. For me, 33 years, and I'm still as excited as I was that first year that I was named the head football coach at Grand Valley State, when I clearly had no idea what I was getting into. But as we go into the 2024 season at LSU, we'll be celebrating 100 years of Tiger football, and we're excited about the things that we're going to be able to showcase this year. We feel like Tiger football has a great history and tradition. Our stadium has been refurbished to take advantage of the pageantry of Tiger Stadium, and I think it's going to be an exciting football venue for everyone. It's been a challenging season. A lot has gone on, as we know, with NIL and transfers, and the college football playoffs is certainly upon us now, and we're excited about that change that I think brings a new form of excitement, and in particular to our new conference. I want to welcome Texas and Oklahoma into the SEC, making this, in my opinion, the premier college football conference in the country. Deep and competitive, and certainly now an incredible challenge from top to bottom. And so when we talk about playoffs, you're certainly going to be seasoned playing in this conference week in and week out. I brought 3 of our players here today that I'm very proud of, and you'll get an opportunity to spend some time with today. Garrett Nussmeier, who has waited for his opportunity to be our starting quarterback. His persistence, his patience, his leadership. I'm excited to watch him lead our football team in 2024. Mason Taylor, our starting tight end since his freshman year when he caught the winning 2-point conversion against Alabama, has only been one of the most consistent players for our football team. He's been that both on and off the field. You know, it's hard sometimes when you're surrounded with 3 first-round draft picks to kind of get the notoriety and publicity. And I thought it was only fitting to bring him here today and get his due recognition for the kind of football player he's been for us over the past 2 years, and the expectations of him really being the kind of two-way player, both as a blocker and a pass receiver. And then Harold Perkins, who has been a mainstay for us as a playmaker on defense. Going into his 3rd year, I'm excited to watch what he's able to bring, both at the inside linebacker position. I know Blake Baker is going to be able to move him around. But really why I brought him is I want you to see the man outside the jersey. He's one of our top student athletes. He's got an incredible personality. I think you're going to love getting a chance to meet Harold Perkins, the man, instead of just talking about Harold Perkins, the football player. So those are the players that you'll get a chance to meet today. The 2024 football team at LSU is one that, as we go into year 3, has been built on accountability and trust. But it's been built knowing that we have to be able to play much more balanced football. We had, obviously, a record-setting offense last year, but we didn't play to the standard that we needed to play at times defensively. And certainly that will be the goal this year, was to play the kind of offense and defense and special teams that complements each other. So the challenge this year for us going into the offseason was to make the kind of strides to bring our defense up to the standard necessary to play for a championship. And we feel like we've done that. Obviously, we've got a little bit more work to do with our preseason, and our opener will certainly test us when we open up against USC in Las Vegas, a game that we're certainly excited about. So all of those things in 2024 have been exciting opportunities for our growth at LSU, and can't wait to get started.
Thank you, Coach. If you do have a question, raise your hand. Please give your name and affiliation. Grant, Dylan, and Dinah have the microphones, and so we'll go ahead and get started right here. Coach, right in the center section. Right here, right in front of us.
Real sweet. Sooners on SI. Obviously, you guys lose Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors to the draft. How do you plan on replacing that production?
Well, I don't think you look towards one player. I think, you know, when we look at our football team in its totality, there'll be a number of players that we'll count on. I think we start with Kyren Lacy. You know, he will be certainly a player that we lean on. But I think at the wide receiver position, you know, there's probably 6 to 8 players that will get the opportunity to contribute and make an impact. I think that's what I like about our receiving core more than anything else, is the depth. I think we've got speed on the perimeter. Chris Hilton showed that in our bowl game against Wisconsin, his ability to track the ball down the field. I think we've got the ability to play inside out. At the slot receiver position, I think we've got great depth there. We brought in C.J. Daniels, I think will help us. Zion will help us transfer from Mississippi State. I think we brought in the right mix of players to give us the depth necessary inside and out to make up for that lost production.
Coach, we'll go to the section in front of me, over to your left, about 3/4 of the way back.
Joe Coca with Inside Texas. You had immediate success in the SEC during your first season. What do you think was one of the biggest keys into parlaying your success at Notre Dame into immediate conference title contention in year 1?
Well, clearly, being the #1 offense in the country was not good enough. I think you have to have much more balance. So the balance that we need is offensively and defensively, we've got to be able to complement each other. And we didn't do that last year. So what we're going to need is that complement on defense. We're going to have to play better defense this year. And I think we've made the necessary strides in the offseason to continue on that growth. So again, complementary football, offense and defense, and I know that sounds like coach speak, but the numbers prove it out. You can't have the #1 offense in the country and not play the kind of defense necessary to get you to the next level. So playing better defense, quite frankly.
Coach, we're going to go over to our right in the right section. We're on the far side, to the right.
Hey, Coach.
Over here.
Hey, Coach. What do you, Alex Dunlap, Orange Bloods. What was the sales pitch to Bo Davis, and what does he bring as an on-field coach and as a recruiter?
You know, the sales pitch was certainly his opportunity, you know, to rebuild the pride and tradition of LSU's defensive line. There is a great and rich tradition of LSU football, and I think that had something to do with it. He wanted to be the architect of bringing that back. His ability to motivate, his ability to teach technique. He's demanding, never demeaning. He has an incredible experience with success. He's won national championships within the SEC. So players immediately identify with his success because it's real. And that carries on to the recruiting trail. You know, somebody that has done it, been there. And I think we're seeing that come to fruition, you know, early on in his tenure here at LSU.
Coach, we'll go right in front of us, right in the front row. Ron, just to your left.
Yeah, Brian, Ron Higgins, Shreveport Poacher Journal. You've had some big hits in the transfer portal, like Jaden. You've had some misses. This is your third recruiting class. What have you learned about the transfer portal since your first year, when you had to take a bunch of guys the first year to fill roster spots? What have you changed as far as philosophy? What have you learned?
Well, you know, I think the transfer portal is what I always thought it would be, in that it can't be strictly need-based. If you're in the transfer portal for need-based, in other words, you're filling needs, you haven't done something right in the natural recruiting season. And last year it was need-based, and that's never a good situation when it comes to the development of your football program. I think you need to use the transfer portal to top off the tank, so to speak, right? That you can add to a particular position, and almost one that it's not needed but becomes a luxury. When you can get to that situation, I think that the transfer portal becomes an effective tool. But if it's strictly need-based, you're probably in for some rough seas.
Coach, we're going to stay up front here, just a section over to your right here, second row to your right.
Coach Kelly.
To the right. There
Yes,
you go.
sir.
Middleton with Horns Illustrated. You talked about the success coming into the SEC, having a balanced offense and defense. Texas, when you look at them, you won't play them this season. When you look at them and what Sarkisian has done with that team, do they have that balance on offense and defense to be a top contender in the SEC and possibly even take the championship this season?
I only watched them against Alabama because that was really the only game that, you know, from a recruiting standpoint, not recruiting, from an analysis standpoint, that we had a liked opponent that I needed to watch them. And in watching that game, they certainly had both offense and defense, the capabilities of competing for a championship. Now, each year brings players coming and going. I don't know what their losses were. I haven't researched their roster. But certainly if they lost some players, I know they lost some big players on the defensive line. I think it's always about how you replace. And so if you've recruited well and you can step in, if they've recruited well and they have guys to step in, Texas certainly has the ability to compete for an SEC championship.
Coach, we'll go back over in front of the section in front of me, standing on the aisle, right here in the center.
Coach, Chris Hummer with 24/7 Sports. What goes into placing somebody as positionally versatile as Harold Perkins, and how do you balance his long-term future in the NFL for what makes the most sense for your team?
Well, I think first and foremost, you're looking at a player from his freshman year and what he can do before he's fully developed. So if you take him in his freshman year, and there are things that he can do to impact your team, but he's not fully developed yet, then you find a position for him that can impact immediately, knowing full well that he's not fully developed in all areas that allow him to play every down. And Harold might have been that as a freshman, where he was much more impactful as a pass rusher, as somebody that was a situational player. And quite frankly, he maybe got a reputation as that, but that's not who he is. He's an every down linebacker that can play inside and out, who has the ability to run, who can obviously rush the passer, but he can also tackle from, sideline to sideline. And that's the developmental process that I think coaches have to be able to see what can he do right now versus what can he do as he develops, and then ultimately, what is his position as he moves to the next level. And so I think you have to take all of those things in consideration when you're evaluating your players.
Coach, we'll go over to our far right, over towards your side.
Yeah, Coach. Brooks Austin with Dogs Daily.
I'm sorry, where are you?
Right.
Gotcha.
All right. Jaden and Garrett seem to be very different football players at the quarterback position. I'm curious if there is any common traits that all great quarterbacks might share, and if you see any of those in Garrett.
Oh, there's certainly common traits. I think, the first one, certainly, if we're talking outside of the skill factor, right, the ability to throw the football, if you talk about just from the neck up, the ability to certainly translate. In other words, take the offense, take the things that are taught in the classroom, and be able to translate those things to the field. That was one of Jaden Daniels' best assets. You could watch it, you could talk about it, he could recite it, you could be in a meeting, and you would walk out of that meeting, you go, amazing. His recall, his ability to go through all the progressions, his ability to know everything in terms of blitz protection, and then in a game, he could do it. That gift, that ability is what makes the great quarterbacks great. And Garrett's been able to do that as well. Now he's got to go do it in the games like Jaden did, but that's the first thing we look for, is the ability to take it from the meetings, take it from the film study, take it from the walkthroughs, take it from the practice, and apply it to the games. Real time. And I believe Garrett will be able to do that as well.
Coach, we'll go straight down that center aisle on the near, just right here on the end.
Coach, Emily Grace McWhorter from the next round. What has the defense progression been from spring football until now under Blake Baker?
Well, look, scheme aside, I think everybody has, their flavor of what the scheme, looks like. And Blake certainly has an established comfort level in a particular scheme. But it's relationships. It's getting players excited about stepping on the field. It's about players truly wanting to be part of those 11 guys, running, hitting, being part of that unit. And Blake's ability to orchestrate that, to bring that together, is what's been the piece that is really evident.
Okay, we're going to go over to the section on the right on the aisle. Over to your right, Coach. There's Ralph.
Hey, Brian, good morning. Ralph Russo from the Associated Press. I know at LSU, expectations were always very high. You come in the first year after taking a team with 39 scholarship players, and I think it's fair to say you maybe exceeded some expectations. Builds up big expectations for last year, and there was a perception that you didn't quite hit those expectations. In the real world, in year 3, how do you view the progression to get to now? Do you feel like the expectations were too high last year? And again, how does the build look in year 3, knowing where you came from?
The easiest way for me to answer the question is that I don't deal in expectations. I deal within a process of how we do things on a day-to-day basis, and I know that's not the answer you want, Ralph. I mean, so we don't deal on a day-to-day basis with those expectations as much as are we doing the things necessary that allows us to stick with our process, because we're not about the results as much as are we making progress towards our ultimate goals. And our mission is certainly to win championships. And I get how we get to that conclusion. We didn't win a championship. We're in year 3. This is the most accountable this group has been. There's trust within the group. This will be the deepest team that we've had. So I don't know what that's going to be relative to the expectations. All I can do is continue to work towards what our process is, and then whatever those outcomes are going to be evaluated externally, and I don't control those. I control what our process is and how we go to work every day. And I can tell you, in year 3, I've had really good success with getting our football team to be the most accountable, the most trusting team that I've had here at LSU. And that's usually been pretty good at my other stops.
Coach, we'll go right in front of me, my podium here. Eric, right here on the aisle.
Good morning, Coach. Eric Bailey with the Tulsa World. Just want to get your thoughts on Oklahoma's addition to the SEC and Brent Venables' job in his first year building that program.
I think what I was really impressed with Coach Venables' job was just the bounce back and the ability to overcome some adversity. Certainly, as a first-time head coach, having some adversity and really learning on the job and coming back and having an outstanding season this past season. I think, they've got a great quarterback. I just think they're another outstanding football team with a great history and tradition. I got the privilege of playing them, a few times when I was at Notre Dame, and it's a great atmosphere. I played them when I was at Cincinnati. So, I think it's just a great tradition, great program, and I think Coach has done a great job of really, I think, on the job, really adjusting to being the head guy, and I think he's done a terrific job.
We have time for a few more. We'll go back over to your side, Coach, over to the right, over to your right-hand side.
Coach, hi, good morning. Good morning. George Somerville from Touchdown in the United Kingdom. You coached in Ireland with Notre Dame in 2012 and plan to go back in 2020. Reports earlier this year that LSU is considering playing in the College Football Classic in Ireland. How important is it to expand the LSU brand outside of the US? What does it mean to you personally to play in Ireland?
Well, as an Irish Catholic and somebody that loves to go to Ireland, not to just be at the Temple Bar, but to be in Ireland and the history and the culture of Ireland. I just think from our brand, you know, we've done such a great job with the LSU brand throughout the country. I think the next step for us is international, and I felt the travel there is so clean and easy. Ireland has been such a great destination for other football programs to go and play. Aviva, Cork Stadium, both are great venues to play in. I just think it sets up so easy, from my perspective, for American football to go over there and be received, you know, first of all, and then you know, getting the matchup there. So I'm a huge proponent. I've been pushing our administration, and hopefully we're able to see that come to fruition.
Coach, we have time for two more. We'll start here in the section in front of me, about 3/4 of the way back.
Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. I know you talked about Harold's usage last year, but what would you do differently if you had that decision back?
We would have tied him down and made him eat more. You know, we had an issue relative to his weight gain, and we didn't feel like, you know, that it really was his best position to be inside. And I just felt like we were still in the developmental process with Harold. And, you know, he's, like I said, you'll see him today, he's over 220 pounds. He's physically strong enough to handle the rigors of inside and out. But I just felt like we were needing to put him in the best position possible to succeed. And now where he's physically in a position and he's matured, he now is able to be in more than one position.
Coach, we'll take one final question directly in front of me. Bob?
I'm glad Kevin saved the best for last. But Brian, you mentioned Garrett at the start and the patience. That's not in great supply these days, especially with quarterbacks. What about him do you think allowed him to stick around, wait his turn, and then he had such a good bowl game? How does that play into this season?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think coming from a football family, you know, his dad being in the business, you know, I think in many ways, you know, not chasing something that you didn't know about, where you knew where you were and you knew your opportunity was going to be coming, and you were going to get that opportunity at a place that you wanted to be. And I think, you know, being brought up in a football family and seeing the adverse effects if you're chasing something that you don't know, I think helped him in his decision-making process. I think he saw that we are going to develop our quarterbacks at LSU, and that we clearly have developed our quarterbacks. And huge role, and now he's got the keys to the car, and I couldn't be more happy for him and for our football program that he's leading us.
Coach Kelly, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.